Live on that. Welcome to a live taping of the You're Still Here podcast. I was just walking my dog, and by the way, I have the door open over here, and I had mentioned in the past that when anytime I want to just have the door open because it's a beautiful fall day outside, and last time I tried to do that, as soon as I went to hit record, immediately, landscapers start coming in, but I'm taking the gamble. And similarly, when I was just walking my dog, why is it that every single time that my dog wants to take a shit, the piece of grass he chooses to go on, always, every single time, the person in that household is coming out into their driveway. I'll walk by 75 houses, but the dog wants to shit immediately when that guy is just taking in the garbage or something like that, and then he looks at you like, come on, you're going to choose my place to shit. Every single time. And it just happened to me right before. And also, similarly, anytime I'm in a parking lot, small, big, it could be a huge mall. When I'm coming back to my car, every single time, the person in the car next to me is always doing the slowest routine to either get in and out of his. So I have to just stand there waiting every single time. Every single time. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you or anything like that. Also, have you ever been looking for a parking spot in any sort of city? You know, you're going to have those areas where parking is at a premium and you have to kind of fight for parking. You have to wait for somebody to leave. Have you ever been waiting for somebody to leave and they're just sitting in their driver's seat doing God knows what? So they get in there, crank the car up, and then they don't leave. And they know you're waiting because as they pulled into their spot, they saw you pulling up to wait. And they sit there intentionally, and I have no proof of this, but in my opinion, they don't like that you found a spot and they're going to give it to you. So they'd rather take a phone call or something and make you endure 5 to 10 minutes of, for lack of a better term, agony. And one last lighthearted thing before I get into the whole Barstool thing. First, let me adjust this camera. I don't like being all the way up. There we go. It wouldn't be a true episode of the podcast without a scam of the week, and there really is only one time to talk about this one, and it is the daylight savings scam. Only Arizona does it right. Why are we shifting clocks forward, backward? I already told you about global shifting, where Gregorian miscalculated the time that, the Earth rotates around the sun, and we have to add a leap year every 4 years, and he miscalculated that, and now the whole calendar has shifted like 32 days to the right, which is why I'm still looking at green leaves on the trees in New York. Ain't global warming, global shifting. And the second one is this daylight savings time. Oh yeah, let's shift an hour here, shift an hour there. Why? The theory is to help some farmers? Is this a general concern? They're growing things in domes now. We need to drop it. And while we're at it, push the daylight savings so that when you wake up, the sun should come up at like 7:30. Let's maximize the daytime here. We're wasting hours here, okay? All right, well, there's the original piece of the podcast. So now let's talk about what's currently going on with Barstool, and more specifically, because this isn't really about Barstool, it's about this apparatus or machine that's hovering around anything and everything that is counterintuitive to everything else you might be seeing. You see a lot with, and just obviously it hits home a little closer to home with me, but when you see things like Chappelle, you see everybody from, D'Elia, Callen, athletes, you name it. And the way people are going about, quote unquote, canceling, because I don't like that term. And also, it's probably hard for somebody probably thinks I'm one of these like Barstool. I've never purchased a piece of Barstool apparel. I never went to any Barstool event. Honestly, before the pandemic, I was like, these guys are just a bunch of idiots at the bar. But I didn't care either way. Then once the pandemic happened, and I was a big fan of their public stances towards like, yo, like, don't force me to like shut my business down, don't do this. And then also the way he handled like the Call Her Daddy thing, and also then the Barstool Fund. It's pretty hard not to at least give credit where it's due on that front. But I will start, like, when you have your friends who insult you or compliment you before they insult you. So I will say this. When that Chappelle thing happened a couple weeks back, the 2-minute man, the 5-minute man, the KFC guy, he comes on and, he does one of his little bits about it. And he goes, well, cancel, he's saying cancel culture's getting me. Cancel culture isn't real. Yeah. You sure you want to keep saying cancel culture isn't real because what? Dave Chappelle can perform in a live studio. He also said in that taping that every single, film festival that his independent film or his documentary was invited to, he was disinvited from. So, yes, he can still perform in a live venue, but having everything pulled out from under him, and now, hey, still believe it ain't real? KFC, as you're looking right out the window at, the pitchforks outside? Anyway, what disturbs me about this situation, and I first want to go on saying, if I'm incorrect about this, and these things really did happen, I'm willing to just serve a full eternity in hell. I'm willing to look down the pipe like in Little Nicky when they just shoved full pineapples up a certain German's ass. I'm willing to take a full life in hell. I will. Okay, so don't think this is, this has less about what the claims that the girls said were, opposed to the way the company, who is theoretically about those women who claim that, about their betterment and getting it out there, about the way they went about handling it. So what they did, and I posted all of these in my story. So for about 8 months, and it's hard not to believe that what I'm saying is relatively true because you can see the screenshots that are posted. So it's hard to say that these things are all just made up, because one side is just showing all the quote unquote receipts, as they say, and the other side, you just hear nothing. It's just the original article, and you have to pull details from that. So, according to the guy Dave, and I'll never call him that name, by the way, maybe it's like a power thing. You don't get to self-proclaim yourself royalty of any capacity, so I will not call him that. But that guy Dave, he showed that over the past 8 months, multiple girls he'd been spending time with in any capacity, whether it's friends, this, that, and the other, said that there's just this digger on the internet, and what this was on like Reddit forums, on TikTok, this digger wiggling in, asking every single girl he's ever had a sandwich with what it was like with him. And then more specifically trying to curtail it into, did he do any of this? Did he do any of that? So it wasn't hey, what was it like? It was, you sure he didn't do this? You sure he didn't do that? Just curtailing it into this, narrative that they, for lack of a better term, like had pre-planned. Because when you're working on one of these stories, if you just say, oh yeah, you went out, some people had good experiences, some people had bad experiences, do you think that's going to drive all the media attention that this is? So no, they kept digging, and the most they came out with was a couple, like 2 to 3, really 1.5 people who, if you want to know exactly what the claims are, you go look them up. But after those claims are made, this Business Insider, one of these scam internet kind of companies that you heard of but you never heard of, if you saw one of the reporters on a screen somewhere, you go, who the hell is that? They're one of these quote unquote reporters who uses an AirPod as their microphone. You know what I'm saying? They're one of these new scam reporters. And what they do, they publish this article. This is how things work in the modern landscape. They publish the article, and then, like the Battle of the Bastards in Game of Thrones, a wave of people come from behind the Twitter check marks because, they're trying to set this narrative. Like, here are these allegations. This is the story. And then all the Twitter check marks, these random... It's like they're all part of some unknown, unnamed team. And they retweet it with as if this is absolute fact. I knew this, and you could see some of these on my stories. The worst group of people, and then they'll just repost old jokes out of context, anything. Oh, did we expect more from this guy? And it's what they're trying to do is set the base for their next move, which is reaching out to the advertisers to get their advertisers pulled from them and just fully weaken the brand. And it's not just Barstool. This has happened with other people. You've seen all the stuff with Spotify and Rogan and people walking out. It's any sort of platform that runs counter to whatever you want to call it. I don't care what you want to call it. But as a loudmouth bastard, I'm a huge defender of loudmouth bastards. And the way they're going about hitting the pinpoints to silence these people are disgraceful, unethical, and it's such dog shit. And the reason it's a problem is because nobody knows that this is the three-prong approach, because nobody will talk about it. This is not the first time this has happened. There are legitimate websites, threads on Reddit, Twitter. You can see this, where these proclaimed piece of garbage companies, whatever, Barstool, Rogan, you name it, they list their advertisers one at a time. And as these people get the advertisers to drop the brand, they cross them off the list and update it in real time, like an Excel sheet. And they do it. It's a specific approach, and it doesn't get talked about. And this is what happens. So anyway, going back to the story. So now, they put the dagger in. It's like when Jon Snow died. They come in with the big dagger, huge accusation without actually making the accusation. Remember when I talked about the scam of opening your own pizzeria, that you're allowed to put anything you want on the side of your building as long as it's in quotes? You can just say, absolute best pizza in New York, hands down. It's guaranteed. Don't look elsewhere. It's been voted that every year. You're allowed to put that on the side of your pizzeria as long as you put it in quotes. Well, the same applies to the headlines of these articles. I hate to say it, but some of the covers of the article is oh my God, I got choked, and for a second I thought I was Volkanovski, trying to survive Ortega's choke in the third round. And then they'll just put it in quotes, and now that applies. That thought is... You put that out there. Let's say this guy's me, Andy, and then I apply for a job. That's what's coming up. The Ortega choke. And so it's mission accomplished. It's full smearing, tarnishing, because it doesn't allow you the opportunity to counter it, which goes to his next point. So remember, they spend 8 months writing an article on a subject. Then that subject, after he sees, his reputation is about to be tarnished, reaches out to them to clarify the claims and defend himself. Now, do you imagine any sort of story being done on anybody, and then that person volunteers to talk to that network that, let's say a news network, did an OJ piece for years, and OJ grants them the interview? You think they would decline the interview with the very subject they've been spending years trying to get up there? No. So that's shady thing number one. And then how about this? Now this one, look, there's nothing truly behind other than when you look at those numbers that were presented, but the fact of how many people, I don't know what the financial term is, bet against the Penn Barstool affiliated stock right before this happened. Do you know the level of illegal that is? That's the equivalent of me knowing Tim Donaghy, the crooked referee in the NBA, and placing random bets. A third quarter prop bet on the Miami Heat game because I know Tim Donaghy is coaching or is reffing it. The level of elite, it's pure jail. Now, I'm not saying for sure it's happened, but the fact that something like this, you'll never hear it. By the way, you'll never hear one thing about this. It will never be investigated. It will never be whatever. Yet this company with this piece, so not only gets to just drive a stake in Jon Snow's heart with the rest of the Twitter community driving the other knives in, but some miscellaneous group, who knows, affiliated with the company in some capacity, learns that this is going to come out, when it's going to come out, and profits massively off that. Just the level of illegal is unbelievable. Then, on top of all of that, and this is like the gross part. And remember, I'm a self-proclaimed, my morals are wiggly. I'm not some do-good type of person. So it's not, this isn't even coming from a judgmental perspective. It's sick. So when you're presenting abuse as the cover story, and this is a bombshell story, this is something that people need to know. This is something that the world needs to know. That's how you're presenting it. So you hide it behind a paywall, it's just scum 101, and it's another little half clue to know, you never want to say for certain anything, but every single little hint just points to this being absolute nonsense. I mean, it makes total sense. And what I want to commend this guy, Dave, on the 2% chance that you're listening to this. I don't even really care. But what you're seeing now is people, what they do, and he said this in his video that you can watch because he addressed this straight on. And I believe that's the mistake that everybody else has mostly made in the past. Like he said in the video, my lawyer said, don't do this. It will go away. And to a certain extent, maybe some things will go away because the news cycle, it keeps moving right away and right away. However, the damage has been done. The way I look at these cancellation machines are like the aliens in Independence Day. They come with the big machine. They're all in there, the big machine. And they're just going to blast your whole city in one fell swoop. They're going to consume all the resources, and then you're going to hide and then come back in at the end and try to sort through the rubble and clean your name. No, the damage is done. Look at Chris D'Elia, very similar allegations. And by the way, they might be scumbags. They might the 19, 20-year-old girls, but so does Kate Beckinsale, and we don't mind it when she does it. So when you're just talking about random things like that, you're not talking about illegal activities, because then obviously, you know who they would be with? Oh, those insider traders who profited off this article, and then we could lump them all in the same scumbag category. But you look at Chris D'Elia, so he just hid. He tucked away. I think his last Twitter post was before that whole thing happened. So the accusations came out, and he went and disappeared. And in the meantime, his show got pulled off of Netflix. I believe his specials are still pulled off of Netflix. He got replaced in a movie that was almost done filming or did finish filming, and they reshot those scenes without him. Everything blasted. The Independence Day alien gun waxed Chris D'Elia as he went off into the desert and hid. There's one way to save yourself, and it's you go full Randy Quaid and say, I'm back, boys! And you fly right up into that gun, which is what he did. While the story is hot, you look down the pipe and you address it. Because when I saw him speak in the video, it's going back to UFOs, it's not dissimilar to when I saw that Bob Lazar interview. I never thought a day in my life, literally 0 days, about anything outer space related. When I saw this guy conduct the interview, I go, motherfucker, there's UFOs out there? Because there's a level of honesty that comes through and can reshift the perspective and narrative, and you go, whoa, wait a minute, let me take a look at this. And I think more people need to do this, where if somebody comes out and they launch a massive allegation against them, one that could change their life for good, you need to look down the pipe and deal with it right then and right there. And it was the same thing with Dave Chappelle, right? So all these waves happened. What did he do? He got on stage, albeit not like how Portnoy just looked at the camera and said, look, this is what's going on. But he rebutted their video and put it right on his Instagram. You know, it's amazing to me that more people don't do this. You know, you see all this little stuff in the news with politicians. Why don't you do this? How are you gonna pay for this bill? Why don't you look right at the camera, tell people how you're gonna do it, and hit upload? I feel like it would go a long way. And when people don't do things like that, that's when you start getting suspicious. So, in my opinion, you need to address these things head on, and then that will kind of save you. And I think you're noticing that start to happen in this particular situation. Another layer to this, like I had mentioned, now, some of my steps might be out of order. I did the best I could because there's so much back and forth between them, because, you know, he's kind of a vindictive guy, seemingly. And if anyone know, I told you, if somebody says I used a word wrong 5 years ago, I'll hang on it my whole life. He seems to have that gene in him. So I can understand what that's like. But what's pretty damn telling is that this person who wrote the article, once he uploaded the screenshots of the multiple girls that she contacted and trying to steer them into an answer that would benefit an article, so that instead of 2 girls, they could say 3 girls, even if they got a half answer. If someone was like, yeah, you know, I have an Undertaker fetish, so he used to give me a quick cane, you know, whatever it may be. Look, by the way, I was never a choker, not my thing. I got other things, not a choker. So once he uploaded the screenshots of multiple girls saying what this reporter had inferred to them and tried to get out of them, she then, maybe it was before or right before the article, she bleached 95% of her Twitter account. That's the equivalent of Pablo Escobar flushing 95% of his drugs. You want to see something that looks guilty? Somebody who in March had 4,592 tweets, and then before she broke this story, was at 193. Now, what could prompt somebody to delete that many tweets? Oh, you know, a whole bunch of stuff that would have exposed their clear bias. You know, something a journalist is not supposed to have, but clearly have every single time now. By the way, you know, once in a while we do got to try to be somewhat funny here. What the hell does deleting 4,000 tweets feel like? I don't know the girl's name, and it's not even about bashing these individuals, because you know the company backs this sort of stuff. I don't believe that this girl sat in a room and was like, how can I take down Barstool? Man, maybe she did. However, I would have loved to watch her delete 4,000 something tweets. You imagine that? You think she did it like 10 at a time? Or did she really? Is there a delete day feature? That must have been a pretty funny proposition. And also, and this to me, I probably keep saying this, but the worst part about the tactic is what I told you earlier about how they go to the sponsors to try to get the sponsors to remove themselves from being affiliated with the brand. And I guess they didn't expect those sponsors to then screenshot those emails and forward them to Dave, because then Dave uploaded them. And then once those two people, the two representatives from that company who reached out to Barstool sponsors, what they did was they said, hey, we noticed We noticed, yeah. We noticed you were partnered with Barstool because, we go around and we just look who people are partnered with for fun. That's what we do on Wednesdays. We go, you know what? Who's Gerber Baby Products partnered with? Let's take a look. Who's Barstool Sports partnered with? Let's take a look. And gets all their sponsors and then reaches out and goes, hey, we noticed you were partnered with Barstool Sports. Did you see the bombshell article that came out? It's their own article. They're quoting their own article. That's like saying a wise man once said and quoting yourself. So they essentially refer to their own article saying, do you stand by somebody like this? Trying to pressure them to get out of there. Now, ultimately, what the goal is, it's not like they're going to shut the business of Barstool down. My guess is that they hope to strike fear into future endeavors and also other companies who see this going on, where they're like, we better not go over that line or else we're going to have these people contacting Gerber Baby Products. However, like I said, this guy deserves credit for taking that stun gun ray machine known as this thing, and he shined it back at them. He shined it at Twitter like this, like the bat signal 5 inches away from their face. And you see what happens. You got one person who bleached her whole Twitter feed, a second person and third person, the two people who reached out to the sponsors, they went private on their Twitter accounts. And no, this isn't the same as, let me see a name here. Only Asia? Who's Only Asia? Only Asia? You broke up with your boyfriend, so now you're going to go put yourself on private because you don't want your ex-boyfriend seeing your pictures. You do that whole thing where you keep them wondering. No, that's a lot different than this. This is somebody part of a journalistic institution. They have, 15, 20,000 followers going on private because, like Ace Ventura told Lois Einhorn, somebody buckled under the pressure. What would you know about pressure? Well, I have kissed somebody who goes somebody who goes private, who's always been public, and can't take having to face this question along with the other person and then the bleached Twitter account. What does this all add up to? And that takes me to my ultimate solution of what needs to be done in these situations. I believe, and this extends to everything. I'll start you with something soft and then we'll go a little bit harder. But this extends to when I watch like a sports show, when I watch one of those fake argument shows where I say peanut butter, you say jelly, and you like Darnold, and I like Daniel Jones, and I like that, and it's just clearly fake. You should have to wager your airtime. I've said this, I said you should have to wager your airtime so we know if you're just giving us a fake take. Because in my life, if I give one bad restaurant suggestion, if I suggest a bad restaurant to a friend, my friend says, yo, Andy, you've been in Soho, right? Well, where can I take out a girl? Go to so-and-so. And if he has an awful time, not only am I not allowed to give restaurant suggestions to him, but now he's going to tell the rest of my friends, and I'm not allowed to give any suggestions on anything, forget about just restaurants, for years, a minimum 5 years. And that's what real consequences are called. You can't just do things and not have to deal with any consequences. And in these type of situations, there needs to be, like in poker, you can't win what you don't put in. If you accuse me of something, and I'm going to take it away from that realm, you accuse me from throwing rocks from my backyard. I was a piece of shit when I was a kid. I used to take tennis racket and crack rocks, and I don't know if you ever hit a rock with a tennis racket. It goes miles. And I used to blast it 15 houses down and just listen for the boom. I mean, that's awful. I clearly, bad things could have happened. Let's just say I did it with pebbles. I did it with mini pebbles, could have never hurt anyone, and I just wanted to hear a loud sound. If something ever happened, If I accuse somebody of doing that who didn't do it, that charge now goes to me. You need to know that you can lose the 4,000 to win the 4,000. And I'm talking about specifically when you're a third party. Okay? Because you don't want to de-incentivize people who are going through something to report something or anything like that. But I'm talking about when you're a third party, unaffiliated, trying to be some big hero or claim you are, but then, shuffling inside tips to the insiders who profit off of it, and then you hide your story behind a paywall. You think it's so important for the whole world to know that you hide it behind your $49.99 per month or whatever scam you're running over there. You need to be able to lose the hand as well. And it's a major, I'll keep saying it, major problem that we have. And you know what's great? I have very little to be taken, so I don't have to worry too much about these people, They don't waste, they focus on the big guns. But I will say this, if one of these people, happen to catch this and they're like, yo, we can't have this guy ever get popular, he'll share this video, I'm gone like this. Those people who have the platforms to withstand the pressure of this, go research the hundreds of YouTube accounts that have been taken down in these coordinated takedowns, and you'll see many people who didn't have the opportunity to at least stay alive. So this is just me ranting about something that I've been slowly looking at. And obviously, like right now, COVID's a very serious thing. You don't see me weighing in on that. I know the nature of how serious all that stuff is. So I'll poke fun a little from the outside, but I'd like to buy myself some credibility that when I do talk to something, it's like, you know what? He's not just some partisan piece of shit. He's just I'm just me, man. I don't care. I don't care about this side, that side. You know what's right. And you know what you did. All right? I think I mostly got everything out that I wanted to say about the situation. It is another person who got caught up in this was Shane Gillis. And he actually, if you want to see something fascinating, listen to his interview. He was the guy who got hired by Saturday Night Live and fired before ever taking the stage. He goes, I'm the only person who got canceled, but I had nothing. So it's the worst because normally they go after someone with everything and they can be like, all right, well, I got my money and I can just go disappear. He got nothing. I feel real bad for him. You should listen to his interview about it. He classic struggling comedian, gets a break, and before he can collect a nickel off of it, down deeper into the bunkers. I think I hit most of the stuff that I wanted to talk about. And for what it's worth, I can always keep things. I can easily go back to funny stuff, but it was just, man, there are certain things that have been pissing me off. And how when people say, that's my hill to die. Oh, that's a hill to die on. Everyone overuses that term. Nobody would die on any hill. They'd go run down the street and never do anything. Okay. But my hill to die on as a shit talker my whole life is this kind of stuff. I'm going to tell you quickly, when I went to Croatia when I was 10 years old, I brought my roller skates and hockey stick, and there I was the only person in the whole country playing hockey. And I went on the streets with my big yellow headphones, and I think I had like Michael Jackson, and I went stick handling down the street, just like, he claims that I am the one. You want to talk about a free-spirited individual? That was created from being allowed to just be, a donkey who speaks my mind. And when you see that being like villainized and demonized, that is my proverbial hill to die on. So you want to call me a piece of shit? Go ahead. That's the big move, by the way. These Twitter people, it's the funniest thing. Go search for the red flag emoji. That's their big move. When I go out with a guy and he watches Barstool, red flag, and just a bunch of red flag emojis. A girl who hasn't been on a date in 15 years. Yes, the huge red flag for her is Barstool. You want to know what the red flag for us is? Just her as a human being. And this is what they do for everything. Oh, for a guy listens to Joe Rogan before a UFC fight? Big red flag. You know, he listens to the most popular show in the whole world? What's wrong with him? What is he, a loser? Red flag. This is their big chalk move. Everything's a red flag. Anything that's actually fully popular, but they just don't like, huge red flags. Huge red flags. Yeah. Oh, I could start naming red flags about everyone over here in this chat and everything. Let me see if there's any questions. How you doing, everybody? Oh, no questions yet. What are you, scared? You scared to ask questions? So when did I start this? I started 3:05. Okay, so I don't know where that situation currently stands, but just know I'm rooting for these people at Business Insider. I'm rooting for all of them to get screwed to the fullest capacity, because the same way these companies have put the fear in people like me. My buddy Gary just joined. Gary, congratulations on the $100,000, you rat bastard. You know, that's what I would do too. I would sit on Instagram Live and I'd look at people who didn't win $100,000 and say, look at this guy sitting in a room talking. He didn't win $100,000. But oh no, I just had a good point. My ADD just ruined it. No. Ah, yes, got it. Came back to me. It's all coming back to me now. How I said, yes, I self-censor I found myself self-censoring here and there. And that's a huge win for the freaks, because that's just not me. I'll say anything. And the same way in my head, they built that little but I'm not saying that could be the one. I want that to be on the other side of this thing. I want every time somebody's about to hit enter on that story, they go, oh God, what if they go Portnoy on me and show my old stuff and show my That's what I'm hoping happens on the other side, because this has been a one-way chopping street. You ever watch one of those matches, or you ever see any of the videos where you see a guy getting chopped in the corner and they go, woo! And they do it like 10 times. Woo! Woo! And Ric Flair's chest is pink, fully pink, like a YouTube red. That's what it's been like to this point. Those who are being canceled are walking around with a big pink chest. And the other side, they're laughing it up. They haven't lost a foot soldier. Their chessboard hasn't lost a single pawn. But if, Business Insider catches an elbow, then maybe the rest of them will too. One last piece. My man, Tim Dillon, one of the funniest guys you'll ever listen to. He's the funniest guy on Twitter by a country mile, other than Twitter Moments, which is their fabricated news stories that they actually try to, shine a light. Like, oh, this is the way it is. Like the one that I shared yesterday about how grades actually don't mean anything. So if you have an F, you're actually the best student in the class. But anyway, Tim Dillon is the funniest. He, while this was all going on, shared a message that somebody had sent to him, a former Business Insider employee, who said, hey man, I just want to let you know, and I'm paraphrasing, but that article never came out about you because they wanted me to write a hit piece, and since I didn't do it, they just refused to release the article. So like literally saying, they told me to write a hit piece, and I didn't give them what they wanted, so they never printed it. Literally solidifying, all right, so he's lying, Portnoy, so everyone's lying, but the people who went private on Twitter and deleted, like I said, Pablo Escobar flushing 95% of his drugs, those are the people who we're supposed to believe. And Yeah, so Tim Dillon shared that, and then I don't know who dug this one up, but just some random girl, I don't know who she is, and I shared the video of her on my story. She was crying in June because somebody, it clearly wasn't her, but it was somebody close to her, got smeared in some sort of article, and she, I don't know, let's say it was your brother, and you're close with your brother, and you watch your brother's reputation being tarnished, and you know he didn't do whatever it is that they suggested. Because remember, they don't do that. They don't say, oh, he did it. They just use those best pizza in New York quotes. Oh, yeah, he was the dirtiest man I've ever known in my life. Put that in the quote, release it, put it on the article, reach out to the advertisers. He's screwed. But this girl in a video is literally in tears. So now she's lying too. Oh yes, we have Academy Award winning performance. Meryl Streep's daughter is doing here. Everyone to take down a company nobody's ever heard of. Or conversely, they're the scummiest group of people ever, and there are many companies like it doing anything to make a buck, any clickbait, any whatever you want, whatever you could say. Any sort of criticisms of me, guess what? Go scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll some more. Everything that you see that I've created has been for nothing but your entertainment. Because you know what that's called? Actually caring about wanting to do entertainment. When you hide clickbait stories behind paywalls, you know what that means? You're a piece of shit. And that concludes my response to the Barstool accusation, this cancel culture as a whole, and like I said, if I'm wrong about all this, I will sign a contract, somebody draw it up, I will agree to it right here, show the judge, show the guy in purgatory, show, like I'm at purgatory's doorstep, I'm willing to go to hell, like the hell you see in Little Nicky, and I'm willing to have the pineapple shoved directly up my ass the same way it happened in that movie. All right? Thank you very much for joining this week's podcast. Hope you had a good time or a bad time. I have fun things I can talk about, but I think I'll just save it to next week. Actually, how about I tell one quick one? I'm going to tell one quick one. Here's one funny story. So when I was younger, I'm going to talk about this another time. When I was younger, and don't spoil it, anybody who knows this, or I don't want you to say anything. I did this television show, and whatever. I did a TV show. And it turns out somebody that my friend was dating, her younger sister watched the show and had a crush on me. We found this out after the fact. My friend slept over his girlfriend's place, right? He woke up, he needed to check his email. He opened the computer and just saw my face there. Can you imagine this? You're at your girlfriend's place. You don't know there's any affiliation of any sort with any of your friends. I guess her sister's computer was on the desk or whatnot. The guy opened the computer and saw his friend's face. Now please imagine this. You, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, you're sleeping over. This person doesn't know me. Your girlfriend doesn't know me. You open her computer, it's me. And you know it was a good picture of me, too, if it was the background. Yeah, you can't make that up. You can't make that up. I mean, I would pay to see the look on his face. It probably looked as awful as the cotton mouth that I'm currently dealing with right now. So, let's see who insulted me on this live stream, if anybody. Oh, of course. All right. All right, we're all good. All right, guys, thank you for joining the podcast. I appreciate it. I'll be back with you next week. We'll have some fun stuff. I already see, I got Jiminy Cricket quotes, so that's an interesting one. Appreciate you coming. I'll tell you that for the 18th time, I will talk to you later. Have a good one. And I'm not even going to tell you to join the Patreon or anything like this, just to prove the point that it's not about that. So, actually, let's be honest. You weren't doing that shit anyway, you assholes. Take it easy.